Hello everybody, welcome to another video. My name's Assidious98 and today I'm bringing you a Nemesis How To Play guide. He's an insanely strong killer, but he is not used often enough, and when I do play against him, a lot of the time unfortunately I don't see people playing to the Nemesis strengths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some interesting tricks that you can do with the Nemesis, and then we're going to go through some gameplay of the Nemesis. Well, break it down and show you what I've done right and how you can maximize the Nemesis's capabilities, because he is an insanely strong killer. So buckle up and enjoy. So first off, with the Nemesis, it's really important that you understand how his power works. So in this clip you can see the Felix is crouched behind the window and you actually can't hit him. That's because of how the Nemesis hitbox works. Now if he's standing at the window, you can hit him.
Yep.
Also, it's worth noting that you cannot hit only part of a survivor. You do have to see the entire survivor, so that is one thing to keep in mind. As you can see in the clip, I move to a 45-degree angle, I can see the full body and I get the hit. Now another thing to note with the Nemesis is the range of tier 2 and tier 3. As you traverse through the tiers and gain more tiers, you will actually be able to hit survivors from further away with the whip, as you can see in the clip. And this can be very useful for when you're trying to actually catch survivors, as you can get a hit from further distances. So what this means is you can actually hit survivors from further away at pallets and places like windows, which is insanely useful, especially when you're trying to zone survivors and catch survivors who are really good at looping. You just got that little bit of extra leeway to help you catch them faster. So that's the basics of the Nemesis. Now we're going to jump into a match and actually show you some real live gameplay of the Nemesis in action, and I'll break down the key important points of the match. Now the first thing I can note is I'm using Lethal Pursuer, which is the Nemesis's own perk, and the reason I'm using that is so I can find survivors quicker and then I can get an early hit, possibly an early couple of hits like we do here, to get tier 2 as fast as possible, which is insanely useful for the Nemesis. One of the major benefits that tier 2 offers is being able to break pallets and breakable walls. Also, it's insanely useful because the cooldown is shorter than normal. Also, I know how tempting it is to use your whip, especially when a survivor is infected, but if you do have the opportunity to M1, then always do it, because you don't run the risk of missing an M1 like you do with using the tentacle. Now it's really important that you get as many people infected as early as possible. That's why we went for the tentacle whip on the Feng rather than the M1. Also, we were defending the hook, so if we did miss her, then it wasn't the end of the world. We were still defending the hook and we drove her away from it. Now a good trick to use with the Nemesis is to use the tentacle to bait dead hards, like I did twice with this David here. It just makes it a little bit easier to deal with dead hard. Now if you do whiff a hit like we did here, please don't laugh too much, because I know it was an easy hit, but it happens to the best of us. So it's fine, because we can just hit her straight over the pallet. She's still zoned, we're right on top of her, so don't fret if that happens. And also we zoned her with the tentacle by breaking the pallet, so she was pretty much rendered useless at this point. We just finish her off with a nice easy M1. Now if you do happen upon a survivor who isn't infected and you need to hit them, do go for the M1. Now what we did here was we actually went for the tentacle strike on the character and not the pallet, and that was to zone the Feng away from the pallet rather than infecting her and running the risk of her actually being able to escape us because of the speed boost. Again, this Bill is at a pallet, we've got him infected. We go for the tentacle strike because I thought he was going to drop the pallet. He never, he greeted it, and then he went around again. We baited him with the dead hard with the tentacle, and luckily for us, we could hit him because we had tier 2. Now this clip will show you exactly what the Nemesis is capable of. We have a Bill here. We actually go for the M1 rather than the tentacle strike, and you'll see why in just a second. We drive him away from the loop because he was going to go down there regardless. He takes us to another strong loop. Now unfortunately we do miss a tentacle strike on the Bill. We did get the dead hard out of him, which is great, but we also missed another one. It happens, but what we did is we actually managed to zone him and make it so that he can't reach a pallet just by sitting in between the pallet that he ran to here and where the pallet was by destroying it with our tier 2. As you can see, how much patience will pay off with the Nemesis in this clip. We just waited 1 or 2 seconds for the build to drop the pallet and we got the hit. We had him infected, which was great, but you will always get the hit if you just take a step back from the pallet, let the survivor drop it, and then go for the strike. And you'll see the exact same thing in this clip here. We managed to get an early hit on the Feng, which is mega, just by taking a step back, respecting that pallet just a little bit and waiting for it to drop it to get the hit. There we go. You see we get the hit there, and then we can actually work on getting tier 2 from this point, and getting tier 2 as early on as possible is really important with this killer. So we continue the chase because it's our first chase and she's not really running to a good area of the map. She does reach another loop just here, but we can actually get a damaging state on her just by a little mind game. She decides to stay at the loop, which was a horrible idea from her. She's really patient, but as you'll see, we're just as patient as her. We couldn't get the tentacle strike, so we just resorted to chasing her, and it actually worked out in our favour as she didn't have dead hard, greeted the pallet one too many times, and we got the down, which was perfect. Now this trick will actually benefit you massively when playing the Nemesis. It'll take your Nemesis gameplay to the actual next level. So what we decided to do is go for the survivor who's unhooking and actually chase the survivor off the hook. Now she has to drop this pallet even with BT, so we just swing the whip just out of her hitbox and actually destroy the pallet rather than hitting her, just in case BT is present. This trick will actually help you massively, especially when it's not beneficial for you to actually hit the survivor. It'll just help you control and zone the survivors just that little bit better. Now the rest of your gameplay with the Nemesis is pretty bog standard for killer gameplay. Just defend your generators, try and set up a nice 3-gen, and the Nemesis does actually benefit greatly from a lot of high chase potential. He's a very dangerous killer to be in a 1v1 against, so use that to your advantage. Try and cut down chases as short as you possibly can, and you should do really well with the Nemesis. There's no reason why you can't get at least 3-4 kills almost every single match, unless you're against an extremely strong Swift, and even then with some practice you'll be killing 2 of those guys quite easily and consistently. Now that is going to wrap up our Nemesis guide for you today. I hope that you learned some new tricks about the Nemesis. Hopefully you learned just a little bit more about him, how his power works, or something was useful in this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. See you next time. Nice.